Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast special edition show where I go over off-season previews and predictions for every team. This is going to be the 9th of 32 shows, or 10th. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, the 10th of 32 shows, and now it is the Dallas Cowboys. America's team. We all know them. You know the drill. Free agents to be, team needs, franchise tag candidate, trade candidate, release candidate, extension candidate, draft fit, free agent fit, and a bold prediction for every team this offseason. And now it's the Dallas Cowboys. All right, so free agents to be Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, Tony Pollard, Jonathan Hankins, Jaron Kearse, Jordan Lewis, Stephon Gilmore, and long snapper Trent Sieg. Team needs offensive tackle, center, running back, defensive tackle, inside linebacker, cornerback, long snapper. So a lot of needs on Dallas for them. All right, my franchise tag candidate on this team, there's a lot of them, but I'm going with Tony Pollard. It would be very Cowboys of them to tag Tony Pollard. They could go with Smith. They could go with Biadasz. And I think Pollard's the other candidate, but I'm going to say that Pollard, to me, is the most likely candidate to be franchise tagged. Granted, I don't think he's necessarily best suited to be an RB1. He's best suited to be the 1A type of running back like he was with Zeke. So what I think they're going to do is that they're going to franchise tag him and either give it one more chance with him as the RB1, or they'll sign like somebody equally as good, or not saying better than Tony Pollard, but maybe like a good 1A, or trade for a 1A like Tyler Algier of Atlanta and have them be a platoon combination like how Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford were in Cleveland after Nick Chubb got hurt. Trade candidate. I'm going to say defensive end Sam Williams. Low-key, the Cowboys have a lot of youth at the defensive end positions outside of DeMarcus Lawrence. And we know they're not getting rid of him. And we know they're not getting rid of Micah. And Sam Williams is going into year 3, and he's playing behind DeMarcus Lawrence, and maybe they could get like a 4th or a 5th for Sam Williams, maybe more realistically like a 5th round pick. Because to me, Sam Williams is somebody that is not in their future plans. Release candidate, Brandon Cooks. There's a couple of them on here. I was tempted to say Zach Martin, but I don't think that they want to cut Zach Martin. He just makes a lot of money. Leighton Vander Esch is another interesting candidate for this, but I would say Brandon Cooks. Obviously they had him sign as a free agent, but Cooks is always traded, as we know. So I can see where he's actually cut. Oh, and one more sneaky trade candidate on Dallas is Trayvon Diggs, but I don't see them trading him. I think that's a franchise tag guy in a year from now, potentially. An extension candidate, CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb obviously is a star receiver. He broke out in such a big way this past year into a WR1. He is a top 10, if not top 5 receiver in this league now. He's just so fun to watch. He is unguardable offensively. And he really has been a big asset to Dak Prescott in that offense. So to me, the Cowboys cannot afford to lose CeeDee Lamb, so I think they will indeed extend them. Although Michael Parsons is an extension candidate, obviously Diggs as well. There's a couple guys that are up for extensions. Maybe even Terrence Steele, the right tackle. So, and then Dak, obviously. Draft fit. I like the idea of Jordan Morgan, the offensive tackle from Arizona, on this team. He's a really good draft prospect. He's somebody that is mocked in a lot of places to be a first-round pick. And him to potentially replace Tyron Smith is not a bad option. So I'm going to go with draft fit Jordan Morgan. Although there are some other guys that I think could fit the Cowboys. Such as Byron Murphy, although I feel like they always draft nose tackles and they don't work out. Jackson Powers Johnson, if they want to go that route, and get the guard. And same with Troy Fatano. But the guy that makes a lot of sense for Dallas is Zach Frazier out of West Virginia. He's a center. They might lose Baez, so Frazier does make sense there. Guyton out of Oklahoma. Graham Barton could play anywhere on the line, so Graham Barton does make a lot of sense there as well. But I'm going to say Jordan Morgan for the fit. Tyler Nubin makes some sense there. Chris Jenkins out of Michigan, although, like I said, I feel like they always draft defensive tackles and they don't work out. So, yeah, the Cowboys, there are a lot of draft fits that interest me with this team. Free agent fit. L'Jarius Sneed, Kansas City Chiefs. He is something else, L'Jarius Sneed. He's either going to be franchise tagged by the Chiefs or he is going to walk and get highly paid by somebody. L'Jarius Sneed is an awesome player. He is a Super Bowl champion. He is only 27 years old, so he has perhaps one big contract left in him. And there are some other guys that make sense for Dallas, but Sneed makes a ton of sense. If they lose Gilmore, they can replace him with somebody younger and arguably better right now in Sneed. But I say better right now in terms of better for the long term. So I would keep my eye on Sneed for sure. Ironically enough, Chris Jones makes sense for Dallas if Dallas wants to make a huge splash, which they might. People looked at Gilmore. So if they look at Gilmore as one, imagine if Chris Jones, that would just be wild. Maybe Justin Madubuike or Christian Wilkins if one of those guys doesn't get franchise tagged. Leonard Williams on Dallas would be weird. DJ Reader But like I said, when's the last time the Cowboys made like the big contract splash? Like the 4-year, $90 million contract big splash. So yeah, we'll see with the Cowboys for free agents. And my bold prediction for this team in this offseason is a big one, and it's something that this franchise must get done. CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons are both up for extensions. I think that Jerry Jones gets them both done. Obviously, they're both very important pieces to this team and have been a big part of their success over the past several years. Jerry Jones deserves a lot of credit for drafting these guys and having them pay off in big ways on one per each side of the ball. And now you got to pony up and pay them. And I think they're going to do that. Some future stuff with Dallas looking like for next year. So they're probably going to be the favorites in the NFC East. And they're probably going to be like plus like 140. And the Eagles will be right there behind them. They're 15-1 to win the Super Bowl. Dak is 16-1 to win the MVP. God, there's so many like names that shouldn't be this high that are so high. But those are those. Their over-under's probably going to be like 10. And I think it'll get action on both sides. And 10 sounds just about right for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of a total. But if it's over 10.5, I'll bet the under. Like, big time under. If it's like 11, then I really would bet the under. Because the Eagles are going to be better next year. The Cowboys are playing a first-place schedule. And they are playing against the AFC North, which includes the Steelers, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Bengals. And as far as I know, all those teams had winning records this past season. So, Cowboys under like 11. So that's like a thing that I'm looking like ahead to a little bit. Micah Parsons, Defensive Player of the Year, is probably going to be in the single digits, if not like 10-1 maybe. I could see CeeDee Lamb, Offensive Player of the Year, being like in the 15-1, 20-1 type of range. Remember people thought that Tony Pollard was a sneaky Offensive Player of the Year candidate? LOL to that. CeeDee Lamb's the better candidate for Offensive Player of the Year on that team. And then Micah Parsons, obviously. Mike McCarthy probably won't win Coach of the Year. All the talk regarding Mike McCarthy will be, when's he going to get fired? When's Bill Belichick going to replace him inevitably? But yeah, that's obviously another Bill Belichick destination, possibly, with Dallas. That's where I thought he was going to potentially end up this offseason. But no, Jerry Jones makes the most confounding and confusing decision to bring back Mike McCarthy after its disastrous playoff loss. So, yeah. That was weird. And there's some people that don't hate it. I mean, as a Giants fan, I'm like delighted. Brian Daboll is a better coach than Mike McCarthy right now. Mike McCarthy is probably the third ranked coach in the NFC East. I put Dan Quinn a distant fourth, and then Mike McCarthy a distant third. Daboll's probably the best coach in the division, and then Sirianni, and then McCarthy. Although Sirianni went to a Super Bowl, Brian Daboll did not have a good season last year. So you could argue Sirianni over Daboll based on the fact that the Eagles made the Super Bowl with Sirianni. Although that collapse at the end of the season was really, really bad. So I think a lot of people are down on Sirianni right now. But that's for the Eagles podcast. So obviously the Cowboys hire Mike Zimmer, the former Vikings coach, as their defensive coordinator, which I think is a really good hire. It's better than Rex Ryan would have been. Rex Ryan's a joke. Like, he would have been a joke. Like, he hasn't been in the league in over a decade, it feels like. But I think the last time he was in the league was like 2017, 2018, coaching the Bills. But I just don't think Rex has it in him anymore. Like, that would be just as laughable as when Arizona State hired Herm Edwards. But that actually worked for like a year. But yeah, I would not have liked the Rex Ryan DC hire. Mike Zimmer was a good choice for Dallas for DC. But yeah, a lot of interesting decisions ahead for America's team. And of course, they get a little bit of a longer podcast than some of the other teams. So there you have it for the Cowboys. Next up is a very interesting one. And actually, this was the 9th episode. I lied. Next is going to be the 10th episode, and that is going to be the Denver Broncos